Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Soulful Hunter podcast. I am your host, Johnny Mack. Through this podcast, I am on a mission to transform lives through primal adventure and to spread my mission of mentorship is conservation. This podcast is powered by Washington Backcountry, a resource for all hunters new and old. To find out more about Washington Backcountry, go to wabackcountry.com or search for Washington Backcountry on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode. This episode is just one I've really been looking forward to for quite some time. This is with my good buddy, Christian Armstrong from the state of Oregon. Christian is somebody who I started to follow on social media, and just from following his posts and his daily stories, I was like, dude, who is this guy? I gotta actually reach out to him and talk to him sometime. So it was probably like last year when I started the podcast. I was like, who is this cat? I got to get him on. And we became really good friends. We have yet to meet in person, but it seems like all our conversations is like brothers from another mother. And really, Christian is like the quintessential soulful hunter. He is the epitome of what the Soulful Hunter is all about. This episode is just a great conversation. He is a father who has... Christian, you got 4 kids?
Yep.
Yeah, so you got 4 kids. You got 2 twins that had a rough birth this last year. And I'm going to have you talk about your story, but we're also going to have, parallel these stories with what it's like being a father, what it's like being a husband, and what it's like being a hunter, and how that all goes around and how it's portrayed on social media, and just... We're just going to chat. So I hope you all like this episode. You need to go check out Christian's account on IG, and we're going to make sure we tag it, and we'll have him share it at the end. But Christian, man, thank you so much for joining me.
Man, I appreciate the kind introduction. It's we've been friends too long not to have a good conversation to share with people. I think a lot of the stuff we talk about, stuff that people yearn to hear in this day and age. Like you said, we're cut from the same cloth. We come from a similar background and really cherish a lot of the same values. And I think a lot of the stuff that we talk about are the reasons that the conversations we have are valued by others. So I'm really glad to be able to jump on and talk with you, man.
Yeah, man, I really appreciate it. It is so nice to actually hear somebody, I guess, how do I say, just like-minded and actually see it through the social media lens, because in today's world, social media is running the world. You take a look at the coronavirus, you take a look at these different, I'm going to say, go ahead, and conspiracy theorists and different things that's going on. What's portrayed on social media can be the truth and it can be a complete lie. But I really love the authentic attitude and perspective you always deliver. And I was like, dude, people need to hear this. They need to share this. And so wanted to have you on. So tell everyone a little bit about who you are, where you're from, what you do.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, you gave me a glimmering platform to jump on. But I mean, for me, in my own eyes, I'm just an average, father and husband. I'm a journeyman electrician, born and raised in Oregon, U.S. Army veteran. I served 4 years active Army, was stationed out in Colorado, grew up outdoors hunting, fishing with my pops and brothers. Now, just passing on that tradition and raising a family of my own. And I think that's where you and I are tied. We just have a passion for getting out and, sharing experiences with those we care about, but also meeting people along the way and cultivating more relationships based on those experiences. And I think that's where so many of our roads intersect. And I think that's where a lot of our community has been built. And that's probably why our communities kind of, weave together a lot of the people that, may know you, probably know me. And likewise, I think a lot of people that know me know of Johnny Mack and the Soulful Hunter podcast. I think it's been a really great way for the communities that I think that we kind of really have invested in and tried to create. A lot of the people that we've met have definitely intersected there. And I think that's pretty awesome too. I love that you took your experience with what hunting means to you and made a stage for others to kind of engage and understand what it means to you, but made it your own. It's a really cool way for you to portray, what it means to you in a way that, it's different from how I was. It's like I said, I was born and raised. You weren't necessarily born into that and didn't cut your teeth, at 6 years old, going out cutting trails with your pops. And I think a lot of times I've noticed recently as time has gone on, the difference in what where hunting comes from and what it means to people. But ultimately, it means the same thing to all of us. It's just how we got into it and why we can continue to pursue it.
Man, ain't that the truth? I'll tell you, I'm absolutely humbled just by what you said right there. And it's so interesting. It's like hunting literally has the power to transform lives if
Hmm.
people just give it the opportunity. And yet, here we are in the middle of a so called pandemic, and hunting is starting to be on the rise because people are realizing, wow, meat's expensive in the stores, and I need to actually get out and do something, especially after they've been cooped up for so long. It's cool to see that and to share that. So, tell us a little bit about your story from this last year. You had two. How old are your older boys?
So I got an 11-year-old and a 6-year-old, and then the twins just they're about to turn 10 months in a week.
Man, see, so you and I kind of ran this parallel life because my youngest is 10 months old and he's going to be 1 year in July. And so this
Hmm.
last hunting season, you and I were in the thick of it. Me in
Yep.
a different manner. I didn't have twins, but also like you had quite a situation on your hands that was a test of faith. I would have to say.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was if there was a bad year to miss, filling tags, it was this last year because like you said, meat is definitely scarce right now. Being able to go to a grocery store and get some quality meat's hard, but the lessons I took from last year are things that molded me as a man that I think, not to take from my older boys, but it was something that makes you value life and relationships and faith in a different way than you ever could. And although I don't wish it on anybody, the value that I found in it, the relationships I built, I mean, gosh dang, if it didn't, build a bond between you and I, you checking in on me, those kinds of things, it really, it produced so much in my life that I couldn't have prayed more for. And I wouldn't say that it came easy. It was one of the most exhausting trials I've ever been put through in my life, but the blessing that came from it is more than anything I could have ever dreamt. And I thank God for it every day, not just for the boys, but for everything it made of me, being able to slow down. And ultimately too, when you look at it on the hunting aspect, I was initially so upset about like being taken from my one hobby, my passion, getting outside and hunting. Um, and even in the midst of it, it's like I was thinking so much about how much I was missing out and what it was doing to me. And then when I started to reflect, it was like, listen to what you're saying, thinking of self and thinking about what's good for me. This is the entire purpose of this whole scenario. It's to be selfless. It's to be, bigger than me and to look at my family now and looking at those boys. And I can't tell you what it feels like to watch, two boys born at like 28 weeks being 2 pounds and 4 pounds. I mean, one of them I could fit in the palm of my hand, and I'll never forget that feeling. It changed, like I said, it changed me as a man. It completely reformed my character and who I desired to be. And, with hunting season on the horizon now, I'm amped as ever, but at the same time, I'm still grounded by that experience of why I'm really out doing it. It's funny, I've gone on a couple fishing trips and it's like now I gravitate to like wanting to be home and to provide more than I ever have. And as much as I love getting out, I want to enjoy those experiences with my boys with me, with my wife with me. And I always have, like I said, but if there's anything in life that can ground you, it's having a loving wife at home and kids that depend on you and just watching how beautiful their life can be. When God presents those moments. And there's just I mean, it's hard to put into words, man, but it's been one heck of a journey. And if the kind of relationship it's built between me and my wife, the strength in our marriage, I'd say it dang near made us unbreakable. I don't know that there's
That's so
anything harder
awesome.
I don't know if there's anything harder you could go through than what we did, but I just remember fearing for their lives every day. And uh, it's humbling, but it keeps you grounded. And I wake up every morning with a different perspective and a different drive than I ever have. So I chalk it up as a W, even though, a lot of ways it cut me down and remolded me, but we're just blessed to be where we are now.
Well, I tell you, it's so incredible how life is all about perspective,
Yeah.
right? And going back to the selfish versus selfless thing, talk about hunting and being a parent. Like hand in hand, the most polarizing things that it could do to a human. You know,
Yeah.
you say, I want to be a hunter because I want to provide, but then you're like, but it's all about me going out and hunting and getting a kill, and but yet it's about giving the meat and sharing with my family and friends. But
Yeah.
then I want to have kids because it's so much fun to create that legacy and have that legacy and pass it on, but yet they can be kind of like a handcuff to you and hold you back from the things you want to do. And it's like this weird dichotomy of balance and how do you juggle it. And I think so often in life that it takes intent. You have to be purposeful and intentful in your delivery. You want to be a good parent, then be a
Hmm.
good parent. You want to be a good hunter, be a good hunter. You can be a good hunter and a good father, but you better make sure you understand where your boundaries are at and really get a good understanding of empathy. You know, and we were talking about this before you started recording. Um, you know, you've had more empathy now for your wife
Yeah.
and child care providers and teachers and all this stuff now since you've been home having to fill the gap than you have ever before in your life. And it's just, man, I get lost for words at times, just like how important the small moments in life are.
Hmm.
Like, how many times do people actually stop, look their kids in their eye, and have a conversation with them?
Oh, in this day and age, it's hard. That's absolutely truthful.
Yeah. I was talking with my brother the other day, and actually, you know, I might have actually listened to him. He was a guest on a podcast, and he was talking about how we were raised as children. But one of the things that in our household growing up, it was always talked, you know, you come home from school, it was like, how was your day? What was the
Hmm.
best part of your day? And, you know, a lot of kids, if you're like me, was like, it was good. Um, I don't know, recess or, you know, but my brother brought a different perspective. He's like, well, what was the worst part of your day? And all of a sudden, it just opened up the door to wonderful communication and really getting to know the people that you're investing with.
Yeah.
And it was like a mind blowing experience for me to have that opportunity to talk with my children like that. And, you know, that's why I do the Soulful Hunter podcast. I just want to, dude, I just want to throw some love out into the world and bring some perspective for people that may have not been raised in a household that would be considered healthy, you know?
Yeah. And I had this discussion with my wife not too long ago, but it's it's eye-opening when you realize how many people don't come from a household like that. How divorce rates were probably in our generation. I don't know if they're higher or lower now, but as time goes on, I think divorce rates get higher, and especially now. Um, I constantly talk to people. I mean, and how fortunate I am to have a mother and father uh, who gave me the life that I have. If it wasn't for them, I don't believe I'd be half the man I am, maybe even a fraction of the man I am. People that cared for me in every way possible, but never handed me everything. I earned everything that I got, and my dad's intention was always to build my character first. Physical strength, all those other things that you want to be as a child will come with time, but you have to build character starting at a young age. And it was understanding respect and integrity and accountability. Um, and just like you said, sometimes the root of that is understanding the struggle. So it's like you said, asking those questions. What was the worst part of your day? Opening that up, it makes you become vulnerable. You have to be able to have a discussion and really self-reflect on, okay, well, is it the way I approached it, or was it, sometimes it's not your fault at all, but it helps you evaluate situations. But it also opens you up for mentorship. You have other guys that anybody that knows me knows that I love wisdom. I love learning from older guys. Most of my best friends are older than 50. And there's a reason behind that. I just feel like every time every second I spend with them, I'm gaining something from them. Um, and I try and share that with my kids. And I'm sure you can attest this, but in this day and age, it's hard, man. The culture
Yeah.
that they're growing up in is so closed off, and it's so passive and it's so enabling. There's always an answer for something. There's a shortcut. There's a faster way. There's always it makes it easy to pass up conflict, and that makes it hard as a parent, especially as a father. As our role to strengthen our kids and to reinforce principles. I don't know that there's many tougher obstacles when you're trying to to raise your children in a way that they can be leaders and appreciate people and respect people. And you know what, you might have just started a routine with me. Maybe my first question when my kids get home will be, what was the hardest part of your day? That might be a good way to start it.
Yeah, it definitely allows a lot more opportunity for a conversation rather than a quick one-word answer.
Yeah.
It's really interesting that our greatest strengths are also our greatest weaknesses.
Yep.
And depending on how you apply it in your life, it can be the biggest downfall and lead to what we were talking about earlier with the divorce rate and all sorts of stuff. You have social media where probably one of the worst things that could happen to this world was the idea of a selfie. Hey, I'm taking a picture of myself and I'm going to put it out there. And, this self-obsessed life where if it's not about me, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And you talked about, you search after wisdom and you love the mentorship and the guidance. And so tying it in with the hunting world is like, dude, what a great opportunity, that legacy that we get to create for older hunters or even people who aren't even older, but just well experienced, to be able to pass it on to other people. The greatest gift that we can give people is love, is to love them and to teach them how to love. And ultimately what love is just giving, is give it away. And so it doesn't matter what it is. It's just, you give out of the kindness of your heart. Another word for love is charity. You donate. And it's so interesting just hearing this conversation and having this with you is super powerful. I think being a parent in today's age, the three things that I really want my children to walk away with is to be a critical thinker, to be courageous, and to truly love people. Yeah, and absolutely. Not just love people, but they need to love themselves so that they can then love others. Just like a wife who just gives and gives and gives to everyone, their children, their husbands. Megan, I'm talking to you. I love you, babe. If they don't take care of themselves, it's very easy to run dry. And so it's really interesting and important to make sure that you love yourself so that you can love others through it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, in this day and age, it's like, kind of like you said, and it's always hard because I hate admitting that maybe social media is the culprit, but it sure feels like it, because it feels like such a centrifugal piece of the puzzle that so many people, who isn't invested in social media in this day and age, and how vain it is. It's like you said, it's the place where people go to feel good. They get reinforcement about how good they look or how good of a job they did, or, it's the place where people can make or break their whole entire outlook on themselves. And I think that's crazy. That's crazy to me. And that's why it's like, I don't want, my kids to grow up with that as their foundation of self-worth. And, what you said is, that parallels me and you think a lot alike. We have the same principles and values that we both want to instill in our children and families and into the world in general. But knowing your self-worth, knowing what you come from and what you have to offer is probably one of the greatest strengths you can have. And you can't be valuable to others unless you're valuable to yourself. And that takes time. It takes trial. It takes a lot of failure, and it takes a lot of accountability when you do mess up, and learning how to love yourself for those mistakes. I think we all go through that. Usually I would say probably early 20s to mid 20s is when most people hit it, but there's no designation. We all go through it, but it's just a matter of how you adapt and overcome and become the greatest version of self.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think tying that into the whole hunting thing, I truly believe that hunting is almost, and honestly, I don't know if there's many other things that take the place. I think hunting is one of the most important and powerful things you could do for your entire life.
Oh, yeah.
talk about self-reliance, talk about the ability to provide, talk about loving yourself and being able to go to a place without distraction so that you can focus and get in line with your God above, yourself and the earth below, and just, get straight in line and be able to know yourself and hear and listen. I, for the longest time in my life, I used to always have music on, music. Something had to fill my ears. And I really challenged myself one day. I was like, okay, no more music or radio on when I commute to work. And I just stopped and I just drive in silence. And it was during that time which I was able to really get to know myself, challenge myself, get to know my God, my creator, and really start working on myself and coming up with ideas, and all this wonderful things happen. Well, it's not that easy for everyone to tune out on their commute or different things like that. However, hunting can provide that opportunity when you get out in the solitude and the peaceful quietness, and nothing really tests your true fortitude as a human being than going in a uncomfortable position. You were in the military, you served active duty. That obviously tests your courage, and that's a separate, like, completely honorable, and thank you for your service. But as far as like civilian life goes, putting yourself in an uncomfortable position with the end goal of harvesting meat, killing an animal, taking it home for yourself, the pride that you can provide for yourself, like, there's no greater opportunity, and then the self-reliance of what comes along with it.
Mm-hmm. And I think the greatest thing is it's probably the last thing. And it's like you said, I don't think there is anything greater. I think it's the last thing standing that can provide the character building aspects that it does. Because with hunting, there's this preaching that, you have to eliminate all the factors to set yourself up for success. You be as, sharpen your mind as much as you can, sharpen your body as much as you can, and be as sharp and proficient with your weapons as you can. But the thing that I think a lot of people miss out on, and you learn as you continue to hunt and get engaged with wildlife and Mother Nature, is that you more than you're setting yourself up for success, you're setting yourself up for failure too. You have to know that you can only control so many factors, and knowing that you're going in to eliminate as many of those factors that are working against you, sure, it increases your odds. But if there's anything more humbling than going out and have perfected all of your knowledge, all of your skills, all of your physical abilities, and still not come home with an animal, it's okay. It's okay. There's the as long as you get out there and know what kind of experience you're seeking to get. For me, that's the years that I learn the most are the years that I don't feel a tag. And I kicked my butt for the following 12 months afterwards. You're dang right. But guess what? I work 10 times harder, and it builds me even more. And, I go on these streaks of, usually if I feel a tag, I kind of get a little bit complacent. I think most of us do. It's like, oh man, I'm comfortable. I got meat in the fridge. I got the memory in the bank. And of course it fires you up to go out the next season, but nothing fires you up like, having missed opportunities. And I don't know if that's just me, but I have a feeling that's more than just me.
Yeah. And I totally think that people also miss the mark on, it is all encompassing on, it's not just about killing the animal, but it is just about killing the animal. And it's not just about the solitude, but it is just about the solitude. It's not just about the community, but it is, and the list goes on. And to have multiple objectives when you go out and why we go out, I'm sure just like the military, you're like, okay, here's our main objective, but if we can accomplish these other objectives within the mission, it's a success.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that is how hunting hasn't been portrayed and how it needs to be portrayed and needs to be shared with the world.
Absolutely. And I think doing it how you do, introducing new ideas, new perspectives from all over, especially when you can get newer hunters, people that weren't raised on it, that are just kind of born with it in their blood to, we're going hunting this year. This is a family trip. Because that's how I was raised. It was just kind of tradition. It's my heritage, and it makes it harder for people to understand that don't come from that. But when you get out there, and especially, and it's changed for me ever since I was a kid. When I was growing up, it was all about the camaraderie between my dad, my brothers, my nephews, my uncles, everybody. That's all it was ever about. I don't ever remember getting amped about going to shoot animals. It was all about sitting around the campfire, catching the biggest buck coming out of the thicket at 8 o'clock in the morning on a freezing October morning. Like, all my great memories of hunting as a child were never about killing an animal. It was all about the community that I had in my family and the memories that we share. And, I cherish those days, all my life. And it's what carried me to where I am now, trying to instill that with my children. But at the same time, I've changed, and my goals have shifted. I want to fill a tag every year. I want to have meat for my family, but I also I just crave those memories that you never forget. I remember killing my first bull with my dad 50 yards to my left. And like, those are the memories where it gets ingrained into your blood. It becomes a part of you. There's no way you can do that and experience that and not have an appreciation for the wildlife and what it does for you and your family, and outside of just the meat, but the experience of what you get with the people along the way. Even coming across people, other hunters out in the woods. Yeah, there's bad stories, but there's also times where I've met people that offered to give me a ride, to get pack frames, or guys that will randomly pull over and ask if we've got any more quarters we need hauled out. There's the hunting community can be some of the richest folks you'll ever meet, just in terms of character. And I think that everybody deserves to know that. And I wish that people would. I wish they would give it a chance. And it's hard because it's like the success doesn't come easy, but just like you said, the solitude, being out, in Mother Nature's grip, being able to weather some of the storm and encounter wildlife on that level, nothing beats that. Nothing can top it. That's for sure.
No, nothing can. Nothing can. So let's talk about the power of community. Like, there's a great book somewhere called that. Well, let's just say it's the Bible. That says one can chase 1,000, two can chase 10,000. There is power in community.
Yep.
The hunting community traditionally has been closed off, selfish, and secluded. And they've painted a bad name for themselves. When I started to have interest in getting into hunting, and I asked people if I could go to hunting camp with them, I got turned down.
Really?
Like, dude, just think about the spark that started within me on my own accord. If someone would have taken me and helped me and shown me, it's like, dude, you don't know the ripple effect of the impact you're going to leave upon this world by just saying yes, having the ability to share with someone. So the power of community can change the world. The whole, yes, we can, the we is greater than me, all the different, slogans that you could put on a t-shirt for a football team or whatever it is. But, the community, iron sharpens iron. So the countenance of one friend to another.
Yeah.
Having you on here and checking in with you and you checking in with me makes me a better person. I really appreciate it. It helps me. It gives me encouragement to go out. And one of the most important things is that the first known quality of a human being is courage. So when you have the opportunity to encourage somebody, you are literally filling them with courage. You're filling them with their first quality that a person needs. And so to do that changes the world. And so I know I see you do it. You do it all the time, getting on social media. And even if you don't realize it, you're inspiring other people. And
I hear
was always told that.
I always get made fun of, like, oh man, you're an influencer. And I'm like, I think that word is obviously, meant for a certain demographic, but in ways I think what you initially had said about being authentic and being real with people, being relatable, being forthright about your downfalls and your mistakes, and just allowing yourself to be reflected upon in a truthful way. That's empowering to people. It makes them, in this day and age, it's like I said, how easy it is to manipulate the truth just a little bit to make people believe that there's something better than what they're already accomplishing. I think it's sad. And just allowing people to realize that the struggles they go through, the shortcomings that they face, that that's normal, that somebody else is going through it too, and that somebody with less is doing more, that's empowering to me and that motivates me. So if I can motivate someone in the same way, then that's a blessing and I'm doing God's work. I feel like that's what he puts us all here for, is to be leaders, but as brothers as well, brothers and sisters. I think we're all supposed to share and feed one another.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I hate about the hunting community, is the division, and not just hunting community, but since we're on that topic, but it's how can so many of us that value the same thing be so disinterested in caring for one another? That part always blows my mind. I don't understand it.
Ain't that the truth?
I don't get it.
Yeah. We literally should all be joining hands and changing the world together.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we are stabbing people in the back and cutting them down left and right at the quickest instance possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially if we're all valuing, we're talking about these values, and I'm pretty sure it's obvious through this conversation what it means to both of us. But if even 75% of the hunting community feels about it the same way that we do, then what's the point of hating on a guy that shoots different, or, hunts different, or, I don't understand that. And to kind of paint a picture, like, the one thing that I always notice is, like, the guys that talk about, like, public land hunting, but then get mad at somebody else for hunting within a mile of them or going up the same gate, especially in the Northwest, where
Yes.
we're in a lot of timber company. It's like, you're talking about guys that preach about, public lands, but they don't want anybody hunting up the same gate. It's like, dude, what?
Totally.
We used to drive by 4 trucks every morning and park within 250 yards, in deer camp when I was 8 years old. I remember that there was 4 trucks that we would drive by, and we'd all shake hands and wave and wish each other luck. And sometimes we'd help each other, do a push in the afternoon if none of us were seeing animals. It's like, what happened to that? What happened to that? The authenticity of being out there and just enjoying, the outdoors. I don't get that. I don't get how that was lost.
Yeah. I remember talking to Steve Speck on the Exo Mountain Gear Hunt Backcountry podcast about my story of trying to get as many people started in hunting as possible. And he was like, well, I don't know how I'd feel about, hiking to a ridge line and all of a sudden seeing other people there hunting. And I was like, well, competition breeds success.
That's true. Yeah.
It helps you be a better hunter regardless.
Yeah, that is very true. But I think you got to draw a line. If your sole goal is to validate yourself as a hunter, or validate your success upon, and it's probably mostly social media. The funny thing is my dad's killed, more trophy bucks than I could ever do on my own. And he doesn't have one mount. He has a couple, old pictures that are sitting in a bin somewhere, but it was all, that's like kind of what I go back to. What are you valuing in the hunt? Is it, the self-validation? Does it make you feel better? I mean, of course the success is awesome. There's nothing feels greater than all your hard work and a little bit of luck coming together and, making it come true. But that's where it's like, when you start pushing other guys away that are trying to experience the same thing because you think it's going to benefit you more, it's just that's where the issue would be. I think that's where the issues lie.
Yeah. Oh man, Christian, there's so much that you and I could talk about. We could literally just go on forever.
Oh yeah.
I think this maybe should be an episode that we should do a to be continued and just keep having you back and sharing all this stuff. What are some of and I'm putting you on the spot, but like, what are some greatest things that you feel like people need to hear? And it doesn't even have to be about hunting. Let's just talk about what is it that if Christian Armstrong, whose nickname is the Rev, which, by the way, my nickname is the Reverend also. So I don't know if you knew that.
I know. I remember that was one of the first conversations we ever had. I remember that when you introduced yourself, you're like, man, it's funny, by the way. It was a meant to be conversation.
Uh-huh. What is the thing that you want to leave for people?
I think, I always say at the end of my days, the one thing I want to be remembered by is that I never left room for improvement, and that it's okay to mess up as long as you keep moving forward and don't make the same mistake twice. If there's any 2 things that keep me going as a father, hunter, husband, anything else, it's probably that. And I think what's important is for people to know that it's okay to mess up. You're going to be fine. It's human. I think in this day and age, for some reason, as stupid as it sounds, people forget that. But also that there's always there's always room for improvement. You're never going to reach your peak. You'll never see it. I talk to my 65-year-old dad, who I think the world of, and I think he is the greatest, gift from God as far as leadership, any of the leaders I know. And he still tells me the same thing. He's like, I'll never be perfect, but we're born that way. And so, I mean, I think that's what drives me every day, is just knowing that as a perfectionist, I'm never going to be perfect. There's always going to be room for improvement, but just to know that when things get hard, just knuckle up and ride through the storm.
Yeah. There is beauty in the imperfections.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what also separates us for a good. That way we're not a bunch of clones.
Yeah.
If everyone painted a picture the exact same way, there'd be no differentiality.
Yep.
Everyone would be looking the same, dressing the same, acting the same, talking the same. But we are, I'm a believer in God, and that we're made in the image of God. And not everyone is going to believe the same thing, but at the same time, it's like we're made in his image, but we are therefore made to be creative. We're made to create and live our life. And yeah, life gets dirty and messy. And that's where it can be fun, because that's how we improve. That's how I hate the word grind, but that's how we grow. The growth is made off of the challenges in life.
Well, and like you said, there's strength in diversity, knowing that, everybody has a purpose, everybody has a strength. That's what makes community great. I always relate things to tribe. Everybody had a strength in a tribe. Everybody had a purpose. Everybody had fundamentals that made them greater than the next person, but they all used it to cultivate for each other. And that's something that we can't forget. You can't lose that with time. Those are principles that are everlasting, and as long as you value it, it won't die. But in this day and age, it feels so often that people are out to, for self gain or to be an all in one, and it's just not honest, and it's not going to help preserve, the things that we love. It's very, it's a quick life to live. But I think everything that you've kind of said, I'm just kind of doubling back on. And more than anything, I'm a big fan of building community and making friends and building brotherhood with people that cherish and value the same things that we do.
Yeah. Yeah, that is the truth. One of the great questions that I love to ask all my guests is, what has hunting done for you? What has hunting done for you to make you a better person, make you enjoy life more, or whatever it is? When I ask you that question, what comes to mind?
It's hard because there's two things. The one thing that I always think about is how it's humbled me. And as a kid, that would not have been the truth, because I hate losing. I hate screwing up. I hate all those things. But I think through hunting is what's humbled me enough to realize that, like I said, it's okay to mess up. But it's also the camaraderie. It's what it can do for a relationship. Even with my own father, I think about what my relationship would be like with my dad if it wasn't for hunting, or my brothers, or even my oldest son as he's getting into hunting. Even my wife, my first hunt with my wife, the thing that it just enriches the relationship and the experience that you get out of it with whoever is there with you. It can make a complete stranger somebody that you consider a brother. And I think that's one of the most powerful things about it, is what it can do for relationships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So true. Man, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Christian, you are such a stud.
I appreciate
Literally,
that, buddy.
Man, come hang out with me, will you?
We need to, man. We ain't that far apart. We're only about 4 hours apart.
Dude, it's got to happen.
I know.
You and I have talked about in the past about maybe copying like Exo Mountain Gear, hunt backcountry, and doing like some sort of death hike.
Oh, I really want to do that.
I think we should do a mentorship hike.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
And yeah, push ourselves through tough distances and stuff like that. But use it for an opportunity to build community, to challenge ourselves, and to grow as human beings. And then along the way, teach.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So we're going to have to look into that. Obviously, when we're not trying to raise little ones and we're on lockdown with coronavirus.
I know. And there's no end, end in sight for that right now. It's crazy. I'm just glad. I was glad to hear Washington open back up I was scared for a little bit because I didn't think we were too far behind, but I'm really glad that I saw you were able to get out on your hunt for your spring bear tag. And I was like, what a bummer, man. Like it's one of those things where, especially if you were finally able and prepared and willing to get out and hunt, and then you get it taken away. I was heartbroken. I was like, I can't even imagine.
Dude, that was like legit the very first special permit I've ever drawn.
Oh my gosh.
I put in for 5 years for that. Since I've started hunting and buying a license, I've been buying a spring bear tag, and I draw it, and then it gets shut down, and I was like, just absolutely devastated.
So how much time did you get to hunt?
So my wife is an absolute sweetheart. I got 3 full days over the weekend to hunt, and I'm going to be going back for another 3 full days, but that's
Awesome.
about it.
That's good though, man. It's, especially that's the one thing you value as a father when you got young kids at home. Anytime's good time, even if you're just going out for, a weekend warrior trip, you're gone for 18, 24 hours and come back home. It's just getting out. That's important. It's important to at least make some time to do it.
Oh yeah, totally. Well, the interesting thing is like during this time, because my wife works in the school district and our kids aren't in school because they're a little younger, I was like, why don't we all just go and make this a fun hunt?
There you
And
go.
she's like, no.
most most women would probably agree. I know with how young the twins are and stuff. My wife is like, no. But if it hunts like that where you're not really packing and grinding it out on the mountain, it's a blast. I took my he was 5 when I took him. Maybe might have even been 4. I took my middle son, and I feel bad. I ended up getting him behind this gate, and we climbed like 1,500 feet, in less than 3 miles. He was just killing it. He didn't even care. I kept looking over at him, waiting to see him kind of hunched over, grabbing his legs. And this kid was just grinding it out, and he was just wanting to find an animal. But it was like that was for me. I never took my oldest son that young. But he used to go out and set salt minerals with me and stuff kind of preseason when he was like 8 or 9. And, they love it, man. Kids love it. I never got that. My dad wasn't that hardcore about it. We just showed up for the 10 days, whatever, during rifle season. But, I'm all about the preparation and the full experience. It's a year round thing.
Oh yeah.
But the kids love it. My wife loves it sometimes, but, it's hard when you got younger ones. That's for sure.
Totally. Dude, my kids were devastated when I came home without an animal. They were like, no.
You're like, I know.
So my oldest is 5, and I've told him that when he's 7, I will take him hunting. Because I feel like, number one, I know he has a little bit more of a maturity to do, but also with the age he is now, his younger brother would want to tag along, and he's definitely too young. So at least it gives an opportunity to give some time and separation for that to happen.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I know my oldest is going in to finally he's been hunting off a mentor tag the last 2 years, and we didn't get to spend a lot of time, but he's finally going into the hunter safety program here this year, this summer. Gosh, now that I think about it, I hope they're still doing it with this stuff going on, but, it'll be good for him. We went out this last week for 3 or 4 days over to Central Oregon, and he's already pretty good. Kid can shoot like no other, but it's just good to get that experience and have him go out, get certified or whatever. And hopefully this year, I'm hoping he can get a general blacktail tag, and hunt Western Oregon with me. But I don't know. That'll be odd now with this whole thing going on. I'm not sure that they're still going to do. I'm kind of doubting by August they're going to lift all this stuff to allow a bunch of kids to get together and learn about hunting. But we'll see.
well, the state of Washington is doing actually all their hunter safety online. So I actually today took my trapper's education course and passed the test.
Interesting. I wonder if they will. I'll have to check into that because I signed him up for it like 6 months ago for this August. But now I'm thinking we're almost in June and things aren't really changing too quick. So
Yeah.
I'll have to figure that out.
Well, like I said earlier before we started recording, we could do this forever.
Yeah.
You're a stud. How can people find you?
Man, I don't stick around Facebook too much. It's just gotten too political for me. Most social media has. So I pretty much stick to IG only, but I'm at rev.armstrong. And that's pretty much the only place I frequent anymore on social media. I've been trying to get into the YouTube thing, man, but it's hard for me. It's a lot of work, and I enjoy the quick, honest interaction on Instagram. I think that's the coolest part. The pictures, the
Totally.
messages, it's simple. It's not overthought. Doesn't take a lot of effort.
Yeah, and you can make it what you want it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know YouTube is its own rabbit hole to go down.
Yeah, it is.
So all you listeners out there, also go to soulfulhunter.com, go to our articles tab, and go to This Is How I Hunt series, and you can find Christian was one of our participants in our This Is How I Hunt series, and he did a great article interview, so make sure to go check that out as well. I don't know if you've forgotten about that at all, Christian.
No, I don't. I actually was going through my dry folder the other day and found that.
I love it. It's so good.
Yeah.
All right, listen, we're going to wrap this bad boy up. Christian, you are the man. God bless you. I'm praying for you and your family, and I look forward to having you back on. Good luck this season, and with it being your first season back hunting after a little escapade, we're going to have you on for how the season went for you.
Oh, definitely, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Yep. Well, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to go check out Christian Armstrong, the Rev, on Instagram. Go read his article. But also, please go give a rating and leave a review on iTunes for this podcast. It helps us grow and helps us just get the message out that mentorship is conservation and hunting has the power to transform lives through primal adventure. I'm Johnny Mack. Thank you for listening. As always, stay soulful. If you enjoyed today's podcast, I'd love it if you could go ahead and give this a rating as well as subscribe. Also, you can check us out on Instagram under the Soulful Hunter Podcast. Make sure to tag us in pictures and posts and use the hashtag Soulful Hunter. To find out more about the Soulful Hunter Podcast, go to soulfulhunter.com and be sure to follow the podcast as we are going to be bringing you a lot of great information, insight, and changing lives through primal adventure. I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. Stay tuned and stay soulful.